Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the beautiful Keisha Lacy. Keisha, how you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. How about yourself, kid?
I am doing much better now. Keisha, you and I have been talking for a while now, and I've been so excited to make this happen. But before we get started on why you're here, I would like for the people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit. Keisha is from Texas. She is a horror enthusiast. She's been in the beauty industry for 16 years. She loves to spin the records. She's a DJ. She loves to dance. And she is the host, and this is how I actually met Keisha, of the Random Horror Show podcast. Let's take this back to the top a little bit here for a second. You've been in the beauty industry for 16 years. It looks to me like you've been in it your whole life, but what got you started in the beauty industry and what do you do there?
Um, as of now, I am an eyelash instructor. Um, I am an esthetician, which is to do with skincare, waxing, Brazilian waxing, which is a nightmare, and I have some nightmare stories about that too. Horror
That sounds like
stories
its
on
own
that.
horror story right there.
It is our own horror story, but how I got started is because when I was a kid, I got bullied a lot and got called ugly and all that junk. And so I did makeup as an escape. And
Okay.
so that led me into the beauty industry.
Well, you know what? I'm glad that you didn't let a bunch of dickhead kids push you down. You let them, you know what? I'll show you what's up. I'll show you how beautiful I am. I'll show you how confident I am in myself, and I'll make myself better. And I'll do this for a living just to show you that you're not right and you haven't beaten me. That's very important. That's an important lesson for everybody out there. Do not let the people that bring you down keep you down. Use them as a stepping stone to make yourself better. I'm glad that you were able to do that because not everybody is able to channel that type of confidence in themselves. So that's an amazing story that you were able to do that. Now, listen, I got to know, for one, how you got started being a DJ, and two, what's your DJ name? I know you got to have a DJ name. You got to drop it on me. What's your DJ name?
DJ Kiki!
Let's go. Yes. Yes. So how long have you been DJing for?
It's gonna be for 2 years, and somebody, my Reiki, um, she's my Reiki healer. She pushed me. She nudged me into it because she could tell I was really big into music. I was a band nerd now
Mm-hmm.
for a long time, even through college.
Ain't nothing
And
wrong with the band nerds,
I
man. You know,
know,
like,
right?
what
In
did
the
you play in the band?
tenor sax, I was like a Lisa Simpson.
The hell yeah. Now all I see is bleeding gums out there rocking out.
But she pushed me, gently pushed me into it. And ever since then, I mean, I picked up first aid training, how to put the equipment up, et cetera, et cetera. And there she wrote.
That's
So,
awesome. See, and it's sometimes it's hard for people to find one passion. Not only do you have, doing your beauty work, which I mean, obviously that's a job and a passion. You're a DJ, which is a job and a passion, but you have another passion that you're very, very good at, and that's being the host of the Random Horror Show podcast. Obviously, like I said, you found yourself working in the beauty industry for 16 years. You found yourself as a DJ for 2 years. You know, as if that wasn't enough, Keisha, you were like, you know what? Let's add some more to this plate. You decided to start hosting the Random Horror Show podcast. What gave you the push to want to do that?
I had throat surgery,
Okay.
and that was back in 2019. And it actually started around 2015 or 16 when my daughter and I was watching the old Fright Night, and it just clicked in my head for us to talk about and do a breakdown of Fright Night. And I love Fright Night. It is a wonderful film, and actually is part of my sexual awakening in high school, anyways. Because I love Jerry Dandridge. Oh, that man was so. Chris Sarandon is just so sexy, anyways. I don't care how old he is. I still do him.
He could
But
invisibly dance with me in any nightclub any
I
day.
know that nightclub scene still gets me. It still got me tight like that. But we started to break down that movie, and I used to write a blog, and it was just a blog, just kind of like it was a centric blog because I'm an eccentric person. And so I started doing a list of like horror movies. And I
Mhm.
also did like a breakdown of Fright Night on my blog, which was the country soul girl.
Okay.
And it's still up. So from there, that's where the seed started. And then 4 years later, I was like, you know what? I had the surgery, and I said to myself, I gotta work on my throat chakra. And so I said, what do I really love? What was the thing that I really love as a little girl? My aunt got me into horror movies. And by the way, she is named after Angelique from Dark Shadows. And she acts just like
Ooh.
Angelique from her Dark Shadows, trust me. But I thank my aunt for that right there, for introducing me to horror movies. And from there, I started around during the pandemic, around November 2020, and it just took off from there. And I just enjoy it, and I just noticed that like how much I see through a lot of the horror movies, not just for just the entertainment purpose, but like also the storyline, the character
Hmm.
breakdown, like plot versus character driven stories. And I was game. So I've been doing the random horror show since November 2020, just working on my throat chakra. And there it is.
Right. Well, and I do want to say to everybody, if you haven't had the pleasure of checking it out yet, not only do I have the Random Horror Show podcast down in the description, I also have all of Keisha's social media links. So make sure you're following her on social media. Make sure you're subscribing to the podcast so you can stay up to date and help her to work on her throat a little bit. So, um, now, Keisha, in order for you to have, the Random Horror Show podcast and be a big, influence in the horror genre, horror had to start for you somewhere. So now I would like to go back to the past and talk about how Auntie got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie, and Keisha, the first horror movie that you watched was
Dawn of the Dead, 1978.
what an amazing start to your horror life. Now, um, I can't argue with anybody that would say this is the best sequel of all time. This movie took what Night of the Living Dead did and it amped it up a little bit. So, do you remember about how old you were the first time you had seen it?
It actually came out in 78, which is my birth year. And also, my birthday is coming up, March
Ooh, well,
13th.
happy early birthday.
Yes, I was around 5 years old when I watched this film, and it spooked crap out of me because we lived up the street from a cemetery. So
Okay.
around kindergarten, I'm having nightmares about zombies coming out of the cemetery, dead relatives, dead neighbors and stuff coming to get us because we weren't that far from the cemetery.
Right.
And it actually was, I watched that. So I was like, okay, all right, cool. You know what I'm saying? I still watch horror movies. I actually told excuse me, a story about Christine to my kindergarten class. I know, right? For show and tell. Christine, the car and everything. I was like, damn. I was like, I was notorious for that shit. But but really what I watched, the other one was like Day of the Dead afterwards
Mhm.
to make sure like, okay, it's just a movie and stuff, I'm cool. It was over because the zombie genre, those movies, especially Dawn of the Dead, is what like had me to not watch zombie movies forever until Resident Evil.
Oh, nice. The video game or the movies?
The movies, the video game scared shit out of me. I'm like, I'm not
I
playing this shit.
That's fucking brilliant. So we know that you were a young lady the first time you had watched this with your aunt. Kudos to you, Auntie. Now, at a young age, especially with something like this, where there's a lot of talk about the power of the police and, trying to wipe out the minorities in the buildings and stuff. There's a lot of political views that go along with this
Mhm.
movie, which is why I hate the fucking term woke horror. I hate it because horror has been woke or had a message since it started with Phantom of the Opera, in my opinion. So this movie really does play a lot onto social issues and things of that nature as well. Now, do you remember which scene it was, Keisha, that affected you the most?
The scene that affected me the most, it was a bunch of scenes that affected me the most, was the children. The children that came out of that little old room, and I was like, they get kids too? That's when that shit fucked me up.
Yeah. And
I'm
they
like,
went there
kids can
too.
be zombies.
Not only do you see zombified kids, they fucking kill them. Like they shoot the kids. Especially when you're a kid, you're watching this through the lens of a child. You don't have that adult's mind yet. So, obviously you're still learning, you're still gathering, you're still connecting dots in your brain, and you see other kids, and you're like, oh shit, that's me, and then they get wasted, like and it's funny because those are like George Romero's nephew and niece. They're like, hey, you want to be in this movie? Come here, we'll kill you. So it's just amazing, and the influence this movie has still to this day. Dawn of the Dead, I would say, is one of the most influential zombie movies of all time. And we know which scene it was, Keisha, that affected you the most. But what would you say your favorite scene from the OG Dawn of the Dead would be?
The mall scene with the gang, and that was Tom Savini, and I admired his work because
Mhm.
when I was a kid and I watched it and I was like, wow, they got the blue face on, but that was Tom Savini's early work. But as a
Mhm.
kid watching it, I was like, hell to the no. I was like, the black people were like little ashy and shit and everything. I said, I don't want to be no ashy ass zombie. Hell no, the motherfuckers need some Jergens and some Vaseline. But that was his early work. And
Yeah.
so the mall scene where they were like battling out with the bandits and stuff, that was like pretty hardcore right there.
Yeah.
Very hardcore. And it's also a character driven um film because you got to know each character that was in the mall.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm gonna say the saddest part was the home dude. God, I forgot his name, but he was the one that got bitten first. I got so sad. That
Yeah.
made me sad because they got to know each other intimately
Hmm.
during like a shit show of a zombie outbreak.
Are you talking about Roger, the one where he does
Yeah,
the
Roger, right.
reanimation?
Yeah, Roger was like wild and shit. And he was like, you know what? They're gonna touch me. Yeah, one
Yep.
of them fucked you off and everything. And Roger held on. But I like the part when Roger was eating the olives because it was like his last time savoring the taste of food
Yeah.
before he turned. That was really sad right there. And but the scene of them all of them shooting it out and stuff, because there's zombies coming, they're
Yeah.
shooting the bandits there's like coming in to loot the store, and you had this OK Corral shootout and shit. That was like pretty neat though. It
Yeah.
was. It was
Oh yeah.
very neat.
And this is a movie that really did push the boundaries on what it
It
wanted
really
to
did.
do. And if you guys haven't seen it, there is on YouTube the extended director's cut of the film, which adds about 30 minutes to the film. And it's a little
Mhm.
more graphic, a little more gory, and adds a little more to the story. So if you guys haven't seen it, I do have the links for that down in the description as well, along with Keisha's social media links and her podcast link. Another bump. So, obviously, as horror fans, we live vicariously through the kills. We love watching the kills in horror movies. Which kill from Dawn of the Dead would you say is your favorite?
Oh dear. The kill that I don't know, it's like so many of them that I really
Yeah.
like. Gee whiz, let me like pick one that I really like just the God. No. Um, fuck. I don't know. I'm a Pisces. I'm indecisive. Okay.
And there's so, like you said, there's so many to choose from in this film. Whether it's a zombie kill, whether it's a human kill, there's just way too many to choose in this movie. So
It
I definitely
really
understand that.
no, but you know which one that was the one that stuck out since I'm just like sitting there trying to is the opening scene where they were like shooting them out and stuff. I was like, God damn, just boom. I was like, damn. That was
And
crazy, especially at that apartment complex. And
yeah,
it was just like you said, it was very sad because they didn't know what was going on. And the preacher that had he had like one leg, and
hmm
he was like, yeah, we just put the dead bodies down in the basement, said their last rite. And I was like, that
I
shit
mean,
blew me away.
you have a couple of the cops that just want to kill everybody in that building. They don't give a shit if they're infected
It
or
was
not.
one,
You know,
yeah, it was that one cop that was like saying all them slurs and stuff. I was like, oh, okay, then this how you are, big old mighty like that, Billy Badass.
I ain't gonna be sad when you bite it. Um,
Exactly. But
so
I'm
Keisha,
gonna
we know
say
how.
this.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm also gonna say this right here. Now, I do appreciate Zack Snyder's also. That was a real good one right there. Still scared the shit out of me. The same with 1978 version. I appreciate Zack Snyder with that. It was really good.
I love Zack Snyder's remake. I think it's fantastic. I think Zack Snyder's remake is one of the remakes that shows you how to properly do it. Take the original, idea of the first one and completely make it your own. I love Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. I think it's fantastic.
It
Um,
is fantastic.
yeah.
I
So we
have it
know,
at the
Keisha,
house.
how horror started for you. Obviously, Dawn of the Dead, 1978. What a great way to start your horror life. But now I want to throw you a little bit of a curveball here for a second. My little
Okay.
buddy Ghostface is here, and he has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Keisha? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
You know what's my favorite? And it's probably not a fan favorite. Land of the Dead.
Wow. No, I dig it. I mean, I get that it's not a fan favorite for sure. But you know what? If I talked to, 100 people on this podcast and 100 people had the exact same stories, this would be boring as hell. So I love the fact that I get to hear different, and I love the fact that if we were all here doing the exact same countdowns, the exact same rankings, our exact same favorites and least favorites, nobody would
Mhm.
watch YouTube because they've seen one video, they've seen them all. So I love the fact that we all have differing opinions on these type of things. So, Land of the Dead. Now you're talking the original, not the newest remake.
It's the remake. And like I said, zombie genre was like out for me. But when I started getting back into liking the zombie genre because of Resident Evil movies, and Land of the Dead really surprised me because I feel that like a lot of times that like when we watch a zombie movie, it's a zombie movie. We expect like, it's predictable. But this one I really like it because the zombies are like regaining back somewhat of that humanity. They still gonna eat your ass. They still gonna attack you. John Leguizamo was in it, who played Violator in Spawn. I know Spawn was a crappy movie, but there's some parts about Spawn that I really love because of John
Mm-hmm.
Leguizamo in there.
Yep.
And I mean, it had Dennis Hopper, and it's just like how people was trying to survive through that apocalypse before like the whole Walking Dead series came about, because Walking Dead the comic was already out. People that read it, I didn't even know about the Walking Dead until it aired on TV. I was like, oh, it used to be. Oh, it's a comic. Oh, okay, cool. You know what I'm saying? But that's like my favorite one from that zombie genre. I have a few, but like that one right there, I do watch it a lot. But my second one is Shaun of the Dead. I'm just
I'm
it's badass. And you
I'm
have
a I'm a huge Shaun of the Dead fan. Huge Shaun of the Dead fan. I think the worst thing about that movie is the title, because people hear the title Shaun of the Dead and they think it's like a scary movie or like an airplane, and it's not a spoof movie at all. Like it's a real movie. Like, yeah, it's a zombie movie, but it's not like a spoof, haha, funny movie. Like, yeah, it's a horror comedy, but it's got a lot of emotion to it. There's a lot of sadness. There's a lot of drama. There's a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. Like Shaun of the Dead is a movie that I could talk about for hours and hours. It's in probably my top 3 favorite movies of all time. I absolutely love Shaun of the Dead. I think it's a very close to a perfect movie.
And you know, the music from Dawn of the Dead is in Shaun of the
Mhm.
Dead too, when it first comes on. You got red on you, granddad.
Yep, I love that shit. Love that movie. So Keisha, I have had an amazing time talking to you about your first horror movie, your favorite horror movie. But before I let you go, I always bounce back to the same question. We're going to go back to Dawn of the Dead. And what we're going to do here is rank this on a skull count. Now, Keisha, we're not judging Dawn of the Dead on acting, production, score, direction, nothing like that. What we're doing here is strictly ranking Dawn of the Dead on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Keisha, what would your ranking of Dawn of the Dead be?
5.
I figured, like I said, this movie is so, and especially your first time watching it as a child, anything other than 5, I'd have been a little suspicious. So that's pretty sus there, Keisha. So,
No, it's just when the kids came out, I was like, nope, I could get turned into a zombie anytime. And then I live up the street from the cemetery, so the motherfuckers can come out and eat our asses and everything. And I had bad nightmares after that. So that bitch is a 5. I could go to 20 with it, but we're gonna do 5 skulls with that.
I feel you. So, Keisha, please don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, I said it earlier. I'm going to say it again. All of Keisha's social media links, as well as the podcast link to the Random Horror Show, are all down in the description. So make sure you're subscribing to the podcast and following her on social media so you can stay up to date on everything that she has coming up in the future. As well, if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, comment on the video, and follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. It really means a lot to us as well. So until next time, guys, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.